Thank you, IJS. Thank you, Adi, who's waiting in the wings to help support and hold space for us. And thank you to Cantor Jan Mahler. May your father's memory be a blessing to you and all who knew him, and by virtue of your generosity today to all of us. So I wanted to share a little bit about this Shabbat, this moment in Jewish time, because as Mark mentioned in the couple of moments leading up to our start time, we're shifting into Shabbat mode as we come to sit in meditation. And this Shabbat coming up is Shabbat Zachor, literally a Shabbat to remember, Shabbat of memory. And it's always the Shabbat that precedes the holiday of Purim, which of course is situated in the middle of the month of Adar. And there is a special maftir reading, so an additional Torah reading that comes from Deuteronomy 25, which describes the attack of Amalek on the Jewish people as they were wandering in the wilderness. This attack was particularly horrific in that Amalek attacked our people from the back, essentially attacking the most vulnerable among us. You can imagine the people who would trail behind. And so in addition to this attack that we are supposed to remember, the connection is made to Purim because Amalek apparently is the predecessor of the evil protagonist of the Purim story in the Megillah. I won't say his name. But the Haman was descended from Amalek, and that is why we choose to remember on this Shabbat leading up to Purim. So this got me thinking a lot about the practice of remembering. And one of the greatest fruits of my meditation practice is that after I sit, even if it's for a very short period of time, I often find that I am able to remember something important, something deep, something about who I am, about life, about healing, that gives me perspective. Even if that perspective is really just a greater clarity about the truth of this moment. And I think that spiritual practice in general is deeply connected to the sacred work of remembering who we are, why we're here, how we want to be with the world. And as humans, it's easy to forget. We're, in a sense, wired to forget all of those kinds of things. And so the opposite of forgetfulness, I think, is mindfulness. I remember Jordan Ben-Dada Pell teaching me that the word for mindfulness in Sanskrit is smriti, which is also the word which means to remember. So there's this intrinsic connection between mindfulness and remembering. And in some ways, you could say that Judaism is somewhat obsessed with remembering. Think about all of the various rituals that we have, from wearing tzitzit, the mezuzah, tefillin, shema, prayer, leaving Egypt, standing in Mount Sinai, the Seder. I mean, we could go on and on and on. There's so many things that we have kind of built into our traditional practice to help us with this act of remembering, and an acknowledgement that as human beings, we naturally forget. So I want to turn right now to a specific liturgical prayerful practice of remembrance. This prayer of remembrance is attributed to the Ari, the great master of Jewish mysticism. And there are different traditions about how much of this practice make it into the Siddur, the prayer book, and where exactly in the davening it fits in. But most traditional Siddurim retain some version of this prayer known as the 6 remembrances, Shesh Zechirot. So Adi, will you pull up the screen share? Great, thanks so much. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to list out what these 6 remembrances are. These 6, they're essentially verses that have been taken from the Torah that the Ari felt were important to remember every single day. And I'm going to read them out. And I'm just going to offer kind of a free association about some of the things that they signal to me in my own spiritual life. So the very first one is our exodus from Egypt. So that you shall remember the day when you went out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. It makes me remember that I've survived 100% of my bad days, that I'm built for the work of liberation and redemption, that today might be hard, but I'm free and I don't have choices. And sometimes it helps me remember that I am in fact already free. The second is the revelation at Sinai. But beware and watch yourself very well, lest you forget. That's sort of another way of saying remember. The things your eyes saw, and lest things depart from your heart all the days of your life. And you shall make them known to your children and to your children's children, the day you stood before Adonai your God at Chorev. So when I remember about standing at Sinai, I remember that I was there and that all the Torah I need already exists within me. I remember that I have access to a relationship and an immediate, imminent experience of the divine. The third is Amalek's attack on Israel. This is what we'll read this Shabbat. You shall remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you went out of Egypt, how he happened upon you on the way and cut off all the stragglers at your rear, when you were faint and weary and did not fear God. Therefore it will be when the Lord your God grants you respite from all your enemies around you in the land which the Lord your God gives to you as an inheritance to possess, that you shall obliterate the remembrance of Amalek from beneath the heavens. You shall not forget. This remembrance reminds me that that a moment will come, that trauma happens, that frightful moments happen, but that that moments arrive when I can rest. Meditation is one of those places. And I can remember what needs remembering and forget what no longer serves. Number 4 is the golden calf. Remember, do not forget how you angered the Lord your God in the desert from the day that you went out of the land of Egypt until you came to this place. You have been rebelling against the Lord. So for me, this is a reminder about the tendency to worship false gods. We all have this innate capacity to place people and things and certain values that are not of the highest service before God, and remind me to choose wisely and remember who I'm serving and before whom I stand. Number 5 is Miriam's negative speech and punishment. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way when you went out of Egypt. So there's this teaching that Miriam spoke negatively against her brother and therefore suffered in a very physical way. So for me, this is a reminder to take great care with my words, both the ones that I utter out loud to other people and the ones that I voice in my own head. And it's also a reminder to me about the wisdom of silence, that sometimes it's best not to say anything at all. And finally, we have this 6th remembrance. Remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it, which to me is a reminder that it's a mitzvah to rest, that it's okay to pause and to sit and basically do nothing but be with my experience. It's a reminder to me that I'm a human being, not a human doing. All right, Adi, you can stop the screen share. That's great. All right. So each of these remembrances, this is just sort of like a quick associative rambling of the spiritual messages and how they resonate for me. And they may resonate for you in an entirely different way, and day to day, moment to moment, they may speak differently to you as they do to me. But I love that we're encouraged to remember them each day. So as we prepare to sit, I want to invite you to remember and to consider what it is you want to remember. So it might be one of these 6 remembrances. Maybe there's one you're still thinking about, or your interpretation, as I offered my interpretations, an interpretation that stirred something inside of you. Maybe it's something else entirely. ahava rabbah, I'm loved by a great love, or I'm enough, or I'm safe. May I be safe, may I feel at ease. So it could be absolutely anything. But we're going to practice working with this remembrance kind of over and over. And not only in our heads, but really in our bodies. How can we weave this remembrance into our breath, into our bodies, and our consciousness, for the sake of transformation, of being awake? So that's what we're going to do right now. So I want to invite everyone to begin by taking your seat. And as you allow your eyes to close or your gaze to soften, you may want to place your hands somewhere on the body to kind of get another layer of information about how you're feeling. Check in with some of the habitual places that tend to aggregate emotion and energy, and notice what's showing up. See if you can soften, even ever so slightly. And when you feel ready to create some stillness, feel your body starting to receive the support of the earth. Feel it underneath you, feel it moving through, through you. And allow it to add a little measure of additional strength to the scaffolding of your spine. And with this structure, you may find that your shoulders can relax, your belly can soften, your heart can feel more open. I invite you to take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. When you start to feel a presence of stillness and steadiness emerge from within, you can begin to reset your attention on what you feel called to remember today. We're engaging in a practice of remembering our object of attention over and over. And it's less about sustaining attention and more about the act of coming back in love, in compassion. And remember to remember in the body. What does this remembrance feel like in the heart? In the belly? In the breath? So we'll continue now in silence for the next 6 or 7 minutes. I'll bring us together again with the sound of my voice. I invite you to bring some awareness back into your hands. And you may want to leave them right where they are, or perhaps bring them together at your heart or at your belly, or any combination therein. And into our hands, we place gratitude for this practice, for this collective gathered here now, and those who will practice with us later. We give thanks for a heart's deepest knowing and our capacity to remember what matters most. May our remembrances, all of them, carry us into the days ahead with a clearer sense of our truth, who we are, where we come from, where we aspire to go, who we wish to become. May our remembrances bring us into a deeper and more loving relationship with ourselves and with each other. I invite you to take a couple of soft, gentle breaths as we conclude our practice. And I want to close with a poem by Joy Harjo, who was appointed the United States Poet Laureate in 2019. She was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and she's a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Remember the sky you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon, know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father, he is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is that life is. Remember. I turn it back to Mark.
Thank you for that beautiful offering, Jenny. Friends, I want to invite you to stay with us for another few minutes in keeping with this practice of Zechira, of remembrance, and invite those who are in mourning, observing yard sites, who are remembering important people in our lives, and invite you to share in the chat box, if you'd like, the name or names of those who you are remembering today, and invite you to rise in body or in spirit for Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbat, Yalma, Divrach, Kirute, Bialit, Malkute, Chayechon, Vyomechon, Chaye, V'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Vizman Karev, Kuru, Amen. Shmei Rabba Lavarach, Olam, Amen.
Kadar v'taleb v'talel Shalom Bimoma, Kushia Shalom, Amelo Bele Kuswayam, Bimu, Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thank you so much for being with us today. And if you're leaving us, we hope to see you again tomorrow to sit into Shabbat on Friday. Always lovely to have that pre-Shabbat opportunity. I want to thank Adi Stein. I want to thank Cantor Jan Mahler for sponsoring our practice today in memory of your beloved dad, Jack Mahler, Zichrono Livracha. And also just remind people that if you have been using the closed caption, that you can, if you'd like, you can save the transcript if that's helpful for you. If you click on the option to view the full transcript, it gives you an option to save the transcript if there's something you missed. So, and also we welcome your feedback if this serves your needs. So please do let us know that as well. And those who are able and would like to are welcome to stay on for some conversation with Rabbi Jenny Solomon about this beautiful teaching today about remembrance in preparation for Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat. And if you have a question you'd like to share, please put it in the chat box. I'll try to keep an eye on that. And for those who are leaving us for today, have a good and safe rest of your day and many blessings to you. Hope to see you tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern. So thank you so much for that, Jenny. That was great. You know, a lot of people are not familiar with that Isaac Luria's tradition of these 6 remembrances and building that into the prayer book. I want to try to connect it with yesterday's teaching by Rabbi Ari Lev Fenari, and I'm not sure if you were on. Maybe were you on? Yes. Okay. So you know, he read that passage from Rabbi Alan Liu's book about simcha, as about being really, at least shorthand I have for it, is being flush with our experience. That is when we are really, you know, in the cliched sense, in the moment, when we meet the moment, when we meet our experience without judgment, suggesting that is simcha, and that there's no limit to that simcha, and we can, that's always available. So to put that together with what you taught today about zechira, I actually felt very emotional, like more emotional than usual, about the sense of that remembering is it's very, you know, it's a similar idea of coming back to say like, oh, I've been lost. I am not here, but I can come back. And of course, as you added, you know, with compassion, with love, not with, oh, what's, you know, there you go again, you know, but as you would take a toddler who's wandering off by the hand, hopefully, lovingly, and bring them back, you know, from wandering into the street instead of yanking them. So it's a difference between gently leading back versus yanking, right? Anyway, I wanted to see if you want to, like, you have a thought about that, about the connection between simcha and zechira, joy and remembrance? I guess what I'm saying is I felt some joy in the way that you taught it. So that's what came up for me.
Oh, well, I'm so glad. I mean, I love that you paired those 2 things. And I would say that the joy for me is in remembering. I know for myself that when I get into whatever I'm into, whatever that internal stuff or whatever I'm dealing with on the outside, and when I'm able to pause and sit, whether it's informal meditation or just take a deep breath and come back into greater awareness, and I remember something deep and true and enduring, there's like this kind of primitive pipeline that takes me straight into my heart. And there's a joy that comes with that, and knowing that however far I've strayed, there's still a tether connecting me to what's true and real and important. that's very joyful for me.
I mean, it's obvious. It's really palpable. You exude that, and I love that. I love the way you put it. The pipeline to the heart.
Mm,
And of course, these days we're dealing with frozen pipelines,
yeah.
and so it's really that thawing of that opening, that the way you describe it. So here's the other thing that came up for me, and of course, I'm at the age where memory is now becoming an issue, and there are many others, I'm sure, here for whom that's the case. And because Judaism puts such an emphasis, like you said, on remembering, remember, um, and what happens when we begin to lose that faculty of remembering the past? But
Mhm.
it seems to me that one of the things this does is that it sort of reframes memory, not as retrieving the past, but as being uh, aware of the present. And
Yes.
that really saved it for me. It made me think also about how I know the title of the book. I haven't read the book. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is about, really, I think it's about trauma. But I
Hmm.
thought about it also in terms of how the body, how everything in our lives and experience gets registered in our bodies in some way. And that even if I can't remember the past, if whatever, all my entire past is in my body, it's like, I'm not a computer scientist, but there's some, RAM that's here that is crammed with everything, including the moments right after I was born, when I
Mm,
didn't experience any sense of separateness,
yeah.
when I had like a body experience of inseparability and love, and none of the schmutz had happened yet,
Mm,
and
yes.
that's present. That is present. I don't have to go all the way back there to say,
Yes.
wow, that actually lives in me right now.
Yes.
If I go to that, so I
Yeah.
don't know
I would
what.
say
How do
that.
you deal with that question about memory, and for those of us who are struggling with it?
Yeah. I mean, it's like yesterday when Rabbi Ari Lev Fornari, when they talked about the kind of joy that and happiness that was registering for these Tibetan monks was off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
That I want to suggest this is a different kind of memory.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way of registering. The metrics for this kind of memory are different, and it's not only that the content is sort of beyond just retrieving of facts of something, but the act of remembering can only take place here and now. So the remembering already in and of itself brings us right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is this way in which this kind of memory that I'm referring to, this sort of remembering, is beyond recalling, some specific set of circumstances that took
Mm-hmm.
place, although it could include that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right? We remember leaving Egypt every Friday night when we say Kiddush.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we weren't all actually there, but there is this suggestion, and of course, this is written all over the Passover Seder, that is inviting us time and time again to be a part of this story, which endures beyond our own personal histories.
Yeah. I guess in a way, I guess the Seder, this gives us a little chance to do a shout out for our day of practice on March 14th, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, noon to 3:30 Eastern time. Get ready to register for that. Jenny's going to be one of the teachers. Is that in a way, that's how I understand the telling of the story at the Seder is meant to function. That is, that we begin in this mode of remembering about, oh, this happened long ago, and if it hadn't happened, then we wouldn't be here, right? But ultimately, by retelling the story, oops, I don't know, we're getting some feedback here. Let's see. Okay, seem to be okay. By reliving the story, what seems like something that happened in the past, actually we realize, oh, it's happening right now. And we wind up with that, the famous line, Bechol Dor Vador, in every generation, we are to see ourselves as if
Yeah,
we left Egypt, right?
yeah,
So whatever comfort that offers people who are saying like, well, I can't remember. Can't remember where I put my shoes this morning.
yeah.
It's really not about that.
You're part of.
I mean, hypothetically.
Right. It's about bringing oneself into the story. Yes, that's a piece of it. And it's about remembering that we're part of a much bigger story.
Right. And that we're always there. I appreciated also you bringing Jordan's teaching, because that also sticks with me. And just to build people's a glossary of terms for Jewish mindfulness meditation, that term zechira, remembrance, as that moment when we become aware that we are not present, that, the mind has taken us somewhere else, and then we're presented with that choice to, just keep wandering or come back. It's just one of course, many, many terms that could be used, but it's a great one to have in the toolkit, right?
Yeah,
So
very
thank
helpful.
you for that. All right, I'm going to take a quick look to see any questions. If you do have, if folks do have a particular question about the teaching, a lot of nice words about your teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see any specific questions. Maybe we covered it pretty well. Okay.
I just love that, for me, meditation has been a practice of learning to trust myself and my own inner experience. And so when I offer myself, and today everyone, the invitation to remember, my experience is that I don't have to look far. I typically know. Of course, there are many things to choose from, but I typically know what needs remembering. And so there's a beautiful act of kind of self-care and self-retrieval that comes with this act of zechira.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm looking. Oh, the name and author of the poem. So it's in the text sheet that was shared. Maybe Adi, if you can plug it back into the chat box again. Yeah, so it's by Joy. What's the name of the poem? It's by Joy Harjo.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Remember.
Okay. Easy to remember. It's called Remember. Joy Harjo. Google that, or just there's the text. Thanks, Adi. And it has those 6 remembrances. So that's a keeper, everyone.
Yeah. I have a copy on my desk.
The remembrances. Yeah, but I would forget to look at them. But it's a good start. Okay. So final word just about this transcript for people. I hope people were able to navigate that, just so you know, if it's helpful. And for some people it might be helpful, some people might be distracting. You can turn it off by going to hide subtitle. If you go to view full transcript, at the bottom, there's a little box that says save transcript. So you can save the transcript if you find that would be helpful. And we're glad to be able to provide that. We're also interested to see if this, for those for whom this is really essential, if this meets your needs. So please do let us know that. Okay, why don't we call it a day? So stay safe and warm, everyone. Jenny, thank you again. Real gift to have you with us. And we hope to see you all tomorrow to sit into Shabbat. Okay. Shabbat, be well, everyone. Bye.
Bye.